Broadcasting from the Business RadioX studio in Alpharetta, it's time for ProfitSense with Bill McDermott.
Good afternoon. Welcome to ProfitSense. This podcast dives into the stories behind some of Atlanta's successful businesses and business owners and the professionals that advise them. We help local business leaders get the word out about the important work they're doing to serve their market, their community, and their profession. I'm your host, Bill McDermott, and this show is presented by the Profitability Coach. When business owners want to increase their profitability, they don't have the expertise to know where to start or what to do. I leverage my knowledge and relationships from 32 years as a banker to identify the hurdles getting in the way and create a plan to deliver profitability they never thought possible. We have three great guests on the show today. I want to welcome them first. Nermin Jasani, welcome. So glad to have you. David
Thanks,
Peterson with PNC. David, welcome to ProfitSense.
Thank you, Bill.
And Mike Holden is a business owner, owns a company by the name of Nextgen. Mike, welcome to ProfitSense.
Thanks, Bill. Glad to be here.
So, Nermin, I want to start with you. I love the name of your company. We are wildly successful, LLC. Not just successful, but wildly successful. I love that.
Thank you.
You know, sometimes business owners have some common missteps when they're growing their practice. Talk a little bit about what is a common misstep business owners make when growing their practice.
Yeah, so a lot of the business owners that I work with are doctors and dentists local to the Atlanta, state of Georgia area. And there are certain trends and patterns that I've seen with the clients that I work with. And one of them is they grow, but the people around them, they don't grow those people. So what that means is the same one person CPA that was with them when they first started their practice is still doing their company taxes year 10, with 5 different practice locations, a multi-million-dollar revenue, and they haven't upgraded that. And, simply by, increasing the skill set of the CPA company that you're working with, you might end up saving, tens upon hundreds of thousands in taxes that you weren't aware of because of the people that were around you. So that is one specific example that I see a lot of times that business owners, sort of have missteps in, is that they're loyal to their people, but also, sometimes it's important to know when to add in different people essentially to your team.
Yeah, and I've seen that.
Yeah. And it's to be commendable, but also it's still important to know that it's something that might be slowing down the growth of your business, right? Another misstep that I see business owners making is, it's the opposite way, which is they want to grow too fast, too soon. So, they've got 5 opportunities that they can purchase, and there's a bank that's willing to give them a loan. And they're like, yes, let's take this as an opportunity. Interest rates are low. We're going to do this. We're going to buy all these practices. And what ends up happening is you've grown so fast and you haven't really taken the time to see if those practices are a good fit, if the patient base is a good fit for you to grow into, and to see how it's all going to actually work. So, just 2 of the sort of missteps that I see as practices are growing along the way.
Yeah, those are excellent insights. And so I want to shift the conversation a little bit to COVID. COVID really hurt a lot of businesses. What are 3 tips you can give business owners who were hurt by COVID this past year?
Yeah, I think some of the most important things that we realized during COVID is One, you've got to be able to take care of your people. So a lot of times companies want to grow because they need the help, but they haven't really planned for the growth in the projections for that year for that business. So I would say if you let people go and you're looking to bring people on again, please just make sure that you're not then at 6 months, 8 months down the road going to let them go again. Have a full plan for them, have it projected that is going to be an expense. The next recommendation that I have is, especially if you are a practice owner, if you take insurance, it's a really good time to reevaluate the insurance companies that you are working with, because some of them don't actually pay enough for the time that you're putting in. So it might be a good opportunity for you to just evaluate some of the things. And number 3 is, a lot of businesses have just sort of given up or are sort of in a slump right now where they're just like, well, what do we do? Right? The reality of being a business owner is it's never perfect, right? Even in the most perfect world, it's still not perfect. You're always going to have problems. So as you come across problems, just know that don't have an expectation that it's all going to be a perfect, smooth ride. PPP is going to come in and it's going to save you. Don't have those expectations. Just have the expectation of you're just going to take it one day at a time. You don't need to feel hopeless, and it's never going to be perfect.
So we're talking with Nermin Jasani, is a former Wall Street attorney turned business consultant. Success for business owners, a lot of people view that success in many different ways, but I'm interested from your point of view, what does success look like for a business owner?
I think it is a business that matches what the business owner wants. So a lot of times I see business owners with a business that they didn't want or expect. Either they're working way too much, or the business is much more stressful than they thought it was going to be, or little things like that I see along the way. I think that the way I define successful is this is a business that fits you and your personality. So if you want to take Fridays off and that business gives you Fridays off, fantastic. If you want a Maserati and a Lamborghini and a yacht and your business gives you that, fantastic. That is success for you. I have worked with business owners who have said, I want no staff, to, business owners who say, I want 100 people and 15 different locations. So if you know that is in fact what you want and you have a plan for it, and then you have a business that looks like that, you've been successful. No matter what your bottom line is at the end of the day, if it reflects what you want it to be, you've hit it. You've got it.
So I'm not sure I want the yacht, but the Lamborghini somehow does sound tempting. I feel the need for speed. I don't know why. Anyway, back on topic. So how can business owners not play the comparing game? My firm's bigger than your firm, or I'm on this list. Business owners love to compare.
They do. And, comparison is sort of the root of all evil when you're a business owner, right? You start to doubt your own success. You start to doubt what you have established, your team, your credibility, how great you are at what you do when you start comparing to, Sally, who has this kind of a business, or, Bob, who has that kind of a business. It's very important not to look at your business based on what you don't have, and instead appreciate what you do have. And you can set yourself up to want to, let's say, make $1 million a year like Sally, but it's not going to look the same way. So if Sally hired X consultant and B recruiting team and uses X software, that doesn't mean that you should do the same exact thing. You can have the goal of making $1 million, or, sending your kids to private school, or whatever that goal is for you. But it doesn't mean that you have to follow the same process, because that process is going to be specific to that one business owner, and it's not going to be specific to you. So don't keep yourself in a box, because you're just going to have a really hard time and you're going to constrain yourself in that box.
Those are some excellent points to make. I want to switch over to fears.
Yeah.
So business owners have different fears for different things. From your perspective, what are the fears that most business owners have?
Well, considering we're in COVID right now, a lot of them are wondering when things are going to go back to normal, right? Because we are still, certain parts of the country are still on lockdown. Certain parts of the world are still on lockdown. And, we're all still wearing masks. So I think a lot of business owners right now are just fearful of what normal is going to look like and fearful of when normal is going to happen. But outside of the COVID situation, I see a lot of fears just when it comes to, for example, a P&L statement, a balance sheet. I see a lot of business owners, especially doctors and lawyers, who look at all of those numbers and for some reason their brain just shuts down completely. They look at it and they're like, I don't know what any of this means. Please find someone who can look at this. I don't want to look at it. Just tell me what I made. And I think that is a really sort of silly thing, because you've gone to school, you've studied medicine, you've sat for the bar exam, you're clearly intelligent. So the fear around the numbers and not being able to understand them, I see that holding back a lot of business owners. And I always tell business owners, you should know your numbers like the back of your hand. What did you make in January? You should know that. What did you make last year? You should know that. So that all those numbers can help keep you on track, so that you have a guidepost. Now, if you're scared of numbers, you're never going to have a guidepost. So, or if you hire someone to look at those numbers for you, or you hire a consultant to look at those numbers for you, and you don't have an awareness of them, that's just not in a good place that you want to be. So, every business owner has fears, and you just have to be aware of what they are and then not let that hold you back. And don't try to hire out for everything you have a fear for.
Yeah, I'm a big believer. You can't manage what you don't measure.
Exactly.
And then most often you're measuring based on numbers. So those are some great points. So in your view, how can a business owner prepare for future dips in the market?
Yeah, I think it's really just coming back to the numbers, right? I always say, please create, 12 and 24 month projections for your business, because you want to at least have some sort of guidelines of where you think you're going to go. And I'm always really conservative in how I look at numbers. So if you think you're going to make $100,000 a month, make it 90, right? Like discount it by 10% automatically, so that if there is a dip, guess what? You were already prepared for somewhat of a dip. So that is one of the things that I say is, just have a really good awareness of what your numbers are and be conservative about them. And when you're looking at hiring people, make sure that you are able to, keep them on instead of bringing them on and then having a dip come and then having to let them go. So bring them on to keep them on, because you're going to want them as part of your team.
Those are great points. So we've been talking with Nermin Jasani with We Are Wildly Successful, LLC. She works with doctors and lawyers on having a wildly successful practice and establishes the fundamentals of running a business, including pricing, marketing, and hiring. Nermin, if someone wants to get in touch with you and the firm, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best way to get in touch with me is via email. My email address is Nermin, Nermin, @wearews.com.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you for all these great insights that you're giving to business owners. We're going to now talk with David Peterson. David is Senior Vice President with PNC Bank. David, I'm thinking our relationship maybe goes back at least 10 or 12 years, maybe a little bit more. We've shared several clients together. And thank you for coming on ProfitSense. It is a treat to have you, and banking is a very hot topic. But before we get into that, talking about borrowing money from the business owner's standpoint, a lot of business owners wonder, what do commercial bankers look at when they look at a company's financial statements? So give us a perspective. When you look at financial statements, what are you looking at?
I think especially since the recession in 2008, 2009, I think the balance sheet is as important as the income statement. A lot of business owners, you ask them, what do you guys pay attention to? And they'll say, well, I've made such and such revenue and I made this much, I cleared this much in terms of net income. But they don't really talk about the balance sheet. And I think that a lot of owners would be very surprised that the balance sheet is every bit as important as the income statement. It really is a reflection over a period of the business's history about how have you capitalized your business, how much cash have you maintained in your business. It's critically important from a lender standpoint that you have good balance sheet integrity.
So true. As a matter of fact, I tell my clients, I frankly feel that the balance sheet might even be more important, primarily because P&L measures profitability, but really the balance sheet measures liquidity, how you're collecting your receivables, and how much leverage you have. So excellent points that you've made. So talk a little bit about maybe what's exciting in the world of banking right now.
There's a lot going on. Actually, PNC has just acquired or is in the process of acquiring BBVA. And so we're really excited about that, and that'll make us the fifth largest bank in the country. But what we've seen over the last few years is increased consolidation within the banking space. You have almost sort of an oligarchy of uber banks, really large banks that are kind of the premier institutions that you think of. But you still have a very thriving community bank structure, which serves local communities. I don't ever see that going away. I think that in addition to those players, though, that you have a lot of new entries. You have a big movement in fintech right now that is certainly disrupting. You have other companies like the Walmart, like the Amazons, like even Apple, that are starting to get into sort of traditional banking services. And I think it's really good and healthy competition, because that's just going to make our industry more inclusive, and competitions kind of sharpens everyone. And then you have, of course, it's been dominating a lot of the financial headlines lately, but you have blockchain technology, which in and of itself could be a really big disruptor in terms of how people interact and how people go to market in the future.
So I think I know the answer to some of the current and foreseeable challenges in banking. I'm sure COVID might be one of those. But in addition to COVID, or maybe COVID isn't one, what are the current and foreseeable challenges in banking?
Well, certainly COVID is number one. Fortunately, I think that the media and the community did a really good job of getting the word out in terms of PPP program, the availability of funds, the process around that. We certainly had our fair share of applications that we processed both for round one and round two, which is ongoing. And we had a lot of business reach out to us. Obviously, with COVID hitting, I mean, no one could have predicted, in late 2019 that we would have had a pandemic that was as bad as what we had 100 years ago. And so I think that was obviously a huge factor in terms of, and a huge risk for a lot of different businesses. But I think, what I would say in this time period is that in a situation like this, where a lot of it was largely beyond your sort of typical business owner's control, you really, as it relates to the bank, the importance of communication, open and honest. Your banker wants to know the good and bad and the ugly. The more transparent you are, the better able that bank and that banker specifically will be able to be your advocate and be able to potentially assist you. And there are numerous resources out there that can help various businesses.
So I recall a circumstance where you and I were working on a client together. It happened to be in a robotics type business, manufacturing platforms primarily. What impressed me, frankly, was there was a line of credit that this client needed, but that was not really the focus of their need. Their focus was really on the treasury management side, and you caught that. So what I'd like for you to also share with our audience is what would you advise companies do when they're looking at their banking options and meeting with various banks?
The most important thing is that you establish a really good relationship up front, and you establish the ground rules in terms of how you want to interact with that banker and that banking institution specifically. The most important thing is that you have a good comfort level with your representative, and also if they have other teammates that they are willing to bring out, ideally in person, and are able to sort of meet you and see your business up close and personal, the better. And that obviously extends to credit, but it goes beyond just credit. It goes to treasury management, as you were alluding to. It goes to things like foreign exchange, international derivatives risk, merchant services, even wealth banking. These bankers are often charged with mobilizing their partners within the bank to ascertain the potential need and then get the appropriate person out there. So you've got to be very confident in terms of who your representative is, and you've got to feel like that they're your advocate. When you're first speaking with a banker, if you're looking to shop different banks or you're looking at your different options, I would say it's critically important you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. And you've got to understand sort of what fits in their wheelhouse in terms of their capabilities, where their strengths are and where their capabilities are. And is that really going to be a good match for your business and its current and potential needs?
So we're talking with David Peterson, who's a relationship manager in PNC's commercial banking group. David delivers banking products and services to companies ranging from about 10 to 75 million in revenue, located in Metro Atlanta and Greater Georgia. I'd be remiss to my listening audience if I didn't ask you about the current lending environment. David, give us your perspective on that.
I think it obviously is COVID is clearly a huge risk factor and is something that is definitely playing a key role. A lot of bankers, including myself and my institution, we're probably going to do a little bit extra due diligence than we normally would, just to try to understand kind of where your business is at, where it was pre-COVID, how COVID has impacted your business, and then as importantly, how is it going to continue to impact your business. But besides that, banks are open, banks are lending, banks want to help. Obviously, I can tell you from a very personal standpoint, being able to be a part of the PPP program and be able to help many of my clients, that was probably one of the most fulfilling things that I've done in almost 20 years of banking. It was extremely edifying. And, you felt like you were really on the front lines when all that was happening.
Yeah. And banks, with the help of SBA and of course, the CARES Act rolling out the PPP program, identified very quickly that the backbone of the American economy is the closely held business, the people they employ, the contribution that they make, and that is exceptional. So, from a banker's perspective, a lot of business owners that I talk to don't really know how to connect with their banker. Can you talk a little bit about the best ways to connect with your banker?
There's not one secret formula. I would just say, just like in most business, it's all about potentially networking. Talk to people that you know, that you trust, and that you respect in terms of their opinion, and see who they're working with, see which bankers that they've worked with. That's a great way to sort of get a warm intro to a banker. Clearly, if you have a relationship with your local branch in terms of your bank, start to develop that relationship even more if you can, and they will certainly be tasked to make the proper introduction and get you in front of the right person. But really go to the people that you know and you trust. And I've always found that the business community is a lot smaller than what it appears. it's amazing how intimate the business community can be, and that how many people I'm always again amazed how sort of our networks end up being a lot larger than what we even imagine.
So, David, if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Best way is to either call me directly, and my number is 404-495-6172, or my direct email address, which is d.peterson, my last name's Peterson, @pnc.com.
Well, David, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Appreciate you sharing the insights from a banker's perspective. Having a great banker is part of that three critical people that I feel should be on every business owner's team, not only the banker, but also the CPA and the attorney. So thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Bill, thank you very much for having me. It was my pleasure.
And now we're going to visit with Mike Holden. Mike is CEO of Nextgen Pest Solutions, has 20 years experience in the industry, managing and training people in various fields of expertise. So, Mike, first, welcome. And second, talk a little bit about the mission of the company and your plans for the future.
Thank you for having me on, Bill. Our main focus with the business is to go through and provide veterans and military service members across the board an opportunity to have a career. And then coming back, when they get back home, having the opportunity to go through and give back to the community to protect the community's home and family from the bad things that we deal with, which are the bugs and the rodents and all the creepy crawly stuff at night. So it's definitely one of those exciting things that we're looking forward to drive in the future and really expanding our reach from where we've had the opportunity to go from now. So it's been a lot of fun, and definitely looking forward to going in and being more of a Southeastern regional player outside of the Georgia, Alabama, and Florida markets that we currently enjoy.
Yeah, and certainly the business has been growing and expanding. And first, I think the inspiration of hiring people that were in the armed services is you yourself were in the armed services too, weren't you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm an Army veteran, and definitely it's something near and dear to my heart. It's something that I believe in passionately, and I still have several friends that are wrapping up their careers in the military. And it's exciting to see them, creeping up on that 20-year mark and definitely giving back, having that home for folks as they're coming through.
Well, I love your mission. And first, let me also say thank you for your service. You gave what you gave so that we could enjoy the freedoms that we have here at home. So thank you for your service in the military. I do want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges of being a small business that you've had to overcome maybe in the past year.
One of the first ones is surviving 2020. I read
For sure.
I read a really good quote. If you made it through 2020, you made it. So you were successful, and it doesn't matter about the other things so much, and be thankful that we're still here. Besides that, it was one of those things of adjusting, making sure that we adjusted very quickly. So when COVID hit in that March, April, May, and started really closing things down and adjusting, and people were scared, and it really had a big impact on us. So instead of going through like a lot of other companies in our industry did of reducing headcount, we made sure we had 100% retention. We did not lose anyone due to the COVID or the business decline. What we did was we adjusted quickly to increase and go all in and make sure that we're being more aggressive. And it's one of those things where as a small business owner, it's spooky. It makes you lay awake at night and look around and say, whoa, man, this is getting a little bit rocky, but it paid off, and it definitely has worked well for us. And I can proudly say, our headcount has increased from 2020 and into 2021, and we didn't lose anybody due to the business being impacted by COVID. And we actually ended up closing out with a really good year, despite thinking it was going to be doom and gloom during the first half. So good times.
Well, so congratulations on that. So I've heard a saying that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So, a result of COVID and some of the challenges, how have those challenges made your organization stronger?
It's became one of the things that we look at as more focus, more flexibility. How do we move faster, yet not move too fast? Everybody always talks about growth, and you've got to be careful with growth. It's that double-edged sword. But it's one of the things where we went through and done a really good job as a company to mature, and data is the key. So if we go through and we look at our numbers and we understand all the different variables with all the different things that go on, it's amazing how they speak to you and how you can go through, and even people that have never seen anything in their career of metrics, and you can go through and talk to them about it, and then you can go through and impact it. So it's been amazing for the organization as a whole. It's been extremely exciting taking people that never have really had the opportunity to look and see how they can personally give back in a lot of different ways. And it's been awesome. And we came out of 2020 a much better organization than we started 2020. So I can say that proudly.
Well, and when you're talking about numbers from a numbers nerd like me, that's music to my ears, Mike. So thanks for sharing that. A lot of business owners just kind of hold their hands up when it comes to numbers. But one of the things that I also noticed on your website is you have a learning center. So I'm curious, how does the community utilize the learning center on your company website?
Great question. One of the ways that we go about it is education. So the phrase knowledge is power, and letting our clients understand and deep diving into what's going on at their home. So you may have some type of challenge or pest issue at your home, and get online and look at all this different data and all this different stuff. And then all of a sudden you go through and you look at our learning center and understand that it ties in with exactly what we're talking about on the other side. So it's real time, it's real data of real information to where people can educate themselves and not just simply say, oh my gosh, I have these ants. Well, why? What can we do to stop them? And it gives that community also an opportunity. Times are challenging right now for some folks, and every service is different. So if somebody can go through and handle that problem, and do they have a simple problem, they don't need a service professional. That's awesome. And that's our way of giving back and allowing them to go through and educate themselves and also utilize the services if they're needed.
So I want to shift the conversation over to your geographic growth. I know you started in Florida, came to Atlanta, and then most recently have started doing business in Alabama. What's driven your geographic growth since you started Nextgen, Mike?
Well, one of the good things about delivering top quality service and being able to be a top quality service provider in the market is customers go through and want to have that service in other areas. So customer demand has really been the big driver of going through and allowing us to open up in other markets. And we always go through and use the data to understand where we're going to be at. But by partnering with our clients in commercial settings and understanding, okay, we're going to be over here at this time and this year, it allows us to have a good footprint and has allowed us to open up additional operations and have that customer base already established to ensure that branch and that market is successful. It's definitely been fun. It's been one of those things I did not foresee. I did not expect it. We wake up every day to deliver the 5-star service that we can across the board, myself included, making sure that we're all chipping in. If there's a problem, we're going to get after it and take care of it. And because of that, our customers have really rewarded us and presented us with a lot of opportunities to really help more people. And that's what it's all about, is helping the people, whether you're a customer or a teammate or in the community in general. We just want to make sure that we can always be helping in the area that we can help with.
So we're talking with Mike Holden, the CEO of Nextgen Pest Solutions. Nextgen is a full-service residential commercial pest control company in the greater Atlanta metro area, also Birmingham, Alabama, Clearwater, and South Florida. So, Mike, you've got to have some pest control stories. So for our listeners, what is the most exciting pest control experience you've ever had?
Well, I'll throw it into kind of a bundle one because we don't have it so long to talk, and I could probably tell you for a couple of days about different crazy stories. And we won't disclose which area it is, but used to service a zoo. and the lions were having a problem with rats getting into the lion cages. And at the end of the day, you don't really connect the two. Of lions are really just big cats. So we go out and we're looking around, and there's this big, massive lion, and he's sitting there slapping around at this rat and playing and having a good time. And the client looks at me and says, "And how do we fix that?" I said, "That is a really good question." Let me think on that. Another one that kind of pops into mind that people don't think about, is there's always bugs in different areas and different things. And in the commercial setting, the roaches, you hear about that. And my first account that I went to, I walk in, I'm inexperienced, just finished up with training, and I walk in and the roaches start trying to run up your pants legs. And of course, here's this big, tall guy that's bouncing around like I'm on hot coals, trying to make sure that I don't get any of the roaches on me. So it's been fun, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff like that goes on. And that's the cool thing about my line of work.
Well, those are some great stories. So thanks for sharing those. If someone in our listening audience wants to get in touch with you and the firm, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, you can reach me on my email. It's Mike, MIKE, at ngpest.com. So ngpest.com.
Great. Well, Mike, thanks so much for coming on the show today, and not only sharing a couple of good stories, but also giving some insights into your growth and success and your commitment to hiring veterans. That's a great story.
Thank you for having me, Bill. I really appreciate it.
If you want to keep up with the latest in pro business news, follow us on social media for the latest stories. If you want to listen to future ProfitSense podcasts, you can find us on ProfitSenseRadio.com. And this is ProfitSense with Bill McDermott signing off. Make it a great day.